A movie studio sold out a ticket to a movie that didn't exist yet in under an hour. Meanwhile, you're sitting on a markdown stock from a drop you hyped for 2 weeks, and it moved slower than a Tuesday. So Nolan's, right, if you don't know, Nolan is the guy who's actually directing this movie. His new movie made $640 million in 2 weekends. I'm recording it right after the second weekend. A brand that started in a garden shed with 150 pounds, right, so roughly like 200 USD, used the same exact playbook whenever they hit their first $100 million year. The same moves, different budget. So here's the breakdown. 5 moves from the marketing, 1 number that tells you if copying any of it, it's even worth it for your brand. And 2 real brands, 1 that ran this playbook right, and 1 that ran it straight into the ground. Howdy, I'm Aaron, and all we do is grow and scale clothing brands online. We've done this for over a decade now. We've helped over 300 in the last 12 months and done over $150 million in those 12 months. So Nolan's Odyssey, this is adapted from Homer. This is a $250 million ad budget, if you were unsure of that, right? This is shot entirely on IMAX film cameras for the first time ever in movie history. Not that there hasn't been an IMAX movie, but nothing that has been shot directly and only made for this movie, which is why maybe you've heard that a lot of people are trying to figure out what's real IMAX or like fake Max for the first time ever in movie history. So most of what's already out there calls this marketing genius. It's not genius, it's honestly it's a formula, and formulas can run without a $250 million budget. You do not need $250 million to make this work if you know which parts of it actually need the budget and which ones do not. So there's one number that decides whether copying any of this actually works for your brand or it just burns your ad spend. I'm gonna give you that number in just a couple of minutes. But move number 1, scarcity advance commitment. So Universal sold IMAX tickets a full year out, and 95% of those seats were gone in the first 24 hours. And for a brand, that's a wait list or a deposit that gets people committed before the product's even finished yet, right? So it's a pre-sell. Now, real quick, before I keep going, if you're watching this thinking about your own launch and want a second set of eyes on it, we do 45-minute no-cost strategy session. Like I mentioned, we work with over 300 brands in the last 12 months. You can check out the link in the description down below. Now move number 2, the withhold the actual product. Okay, this is ballsy, this is gutsy, right? No cast photos on the first posters, right? It was just Nolan's name. Obviously he's got some notoriety here, but brands do the same thing when they tease a drop without showing the actual piece until launch. They just say that something is coming, right? If you're familiar, and I think Christian may do a video on this in the future, Christian's my business partner. He does more of like the Shopify UX, UI, like design piece, but Skylark actually just released, I think this last weekend, like a speaker, and it was like they seeded them to a lot of UGC creators and nobody really knew it was coming. And then it was like, oh wow, a clothing brand just released a like magnetic, you could like stick it on the wall, a magnetic speaker. So this could go well, but you got to do it the right way, okay? So, and also as a side note, I wouldn't try to implement all of these things. Pick the best ones for your brand and then move from that. Move number 3, the format is the story, right? So shooting on IMAX film became its own headline. Your manufacturing process, your fabric sourcing, your how it's made can do the same job. I mean, there's literally a podcast out there called How It's Made. We are, as humans, as creatures, naturally curious. We want to know, right, how things are actually built. We're interested. That's why, in my opinion, dumb shows like Jersey Shore and like reality TV have become so popular. It's because people are just nosy. They want to know what's going on behind the scenes, right? That How It's Made piece is extremely interesting for a group of people. Move number 4, reputation is the hook, not the product. What do I mean by that? So the posters led with Nolan's name, not the cast, right? A founder's reputation or the brand's own track record can be the hook before anyone's seen the specific item. I love founder-led content. You may want to be behind the scenes and not showcase anything, but I'll tell you that founder-led content does extremely well. Okay, your storytelling from the very beginning as a founder can have very big repercussions or ripples if you do it correctly. Move number 5, exclusivity over convenience. So theatrical only, no day one streaming, okay? They chose not to put it on Amazon or Netflix or really any of those things, right? This is like, you can only get it here. But for a brand, limited drops, in-person or app-only access, a delayed general release. We know that this works, but you've got to do it the right way. Original Poem runs Odysseus through 5 different traps on the way home. A brute force monster, right? A seductive shortcut shortcut, a temptation that'll wreck you if you're not ready for it, and a no-win choice between two bad options in a comparable place that's easy to just stay in forever. So your brand runs into the same 5 on the way to its launch, right? So the trendy direction, that's wrong for you. The shortcut that guts your quality, right? You're like, just get it out there, right? The comfortable choice to just stay small, right? A lot of you guys that I've spoken to are like either the fear of failure or the fear of success. Oh man, what happens if I do sell out? Well, let's talk about that when you do it, right? Let's do that first. But staying comfortable to stay small, life's way too short to do that, right? Every one of these 5 moves sounds great right up until you run it against one framework. And that's where most of it either holds up or completely falls apart. Now, here's that number. It's called the clothing offer equation, right? So we call it the COE formula. I'll pull this on screen for you. But this is a numerator and a denominator, right? So you have S, right, which is style and fit, aspiration, times quality and fit confidence. So how confident that this piece of material, this quality product is going to be delivered on, right? And then the denominator, right, is very simple. It's W, which is your wait time. So how long is your shipping from the time that I order to the time I receive the product? SF, right? So minus shopping friction. Is this a bunch of pop-ups on the phone? Is this a bunch of like bad experience with the app? Is it loading speed? And then subtract what's called price sensitivity. Are you properly priced in the market? And then you multiply all that by 9 basically just so you can get it out of 100. But anyway, we have a Claude skill for that. If you want that, just comment the word Claude below and I will send it over to you. And then you don't have to worry about any of the math. You just let the skill do it and you plug in your own brand and it'll give you a number so that you know where to focus on. What you want to do is you want to run Nolan's launch through this, right? So no cast photo poster is pure style play. It only works because Nolan already is the aesthetic people want to near, right? If you've ever seen any of his other great movies, right? I'm a big fan of The Dark Knight, Interstellar, Oppenheimer. Like he's created something, right? And you may be new into your brand. You're like, well, that's great for him. How can I make this happen, right? You've got to find your own angle here, right? And that's why I say founder-led content is good. But shooting on real IMAX film is a quality signal before anybody's seen a single frame. What is there something that you can do to signal quality before anybody else does anything? Now, the year-long wait only worked because it was framed anticipation. And I will tell you right now, as a clothing brand founder, don't spend 12 months doing this. But truthfully, if you're launching for something in the summer, right, then it turns out you need to be doing it, you need to be planning for it in the fall, which is, kind of crazy. So technically you are doing it way in advance. But this is anticipation, right? Not a shipping delay. And tickets sold out in under an hour, right? So the checkout wasn't a bottleneck because literally it doesn't matter. And scalpers reselling above $200. That's what I saw, right? I'm sure in your city there may be a little bit less, but we live in Dallas and this is one of the only IMAX theaters, true IMAX. Go check it out, right? There's 35 or 40 like in the world maybe, and there's only like 18 in the United States. So there truly is a lot of fake Limaxes, or there's a lot of Limaxes out there. There's truly only a few. We do have one in Dallas, but they've been reselling these tickets for like $200, which means that the price stopped being a barrier, right? I think for most people, if they knew they could get into an IMAX, they'd pay $100 or $200. This became the proof the thing was worth wanting. And here's the part nobody's saying out loud. So Nolan's team could guarantee the follow through. The movie came out on time. It worked and it reviewed well. Most clothing brands don't lose at hype. They lose at what happens the second the hype crashes in the wrong fit, late shipping, checkout that fights the customer. And the whole story falls apart on delivery day, right? So fair pushback, one at a time. Nolan didn't build this from zero. 25 years of Dark Knight, Inception, Interstellar, Oppenheimer, paid for just his name on the poster move, okay, right? So you can't copy that, but copy the tactic without the trust behind it and you get the silence, not a sellout. Now, unless you don't have any reputation at all, you can still rely on that piece there, right? Something in your background could prove that. Either it's showing up with content creation, being consistent online, anything there, right? If you've put out 3,000 posts, you've built up some goodwill. That is your legacy, if you will. That is your proof, right? You can't go back in time to make that happen, but you can put out content to build that trust. Now, the box office numbers aren't profit numbers without knowing what Universal spent to get there. So the biggest opening ever is a headline, not proof of the campaign was efficient, right? So obviously it was great. It was his biggest ever, but scale is real. A $250 million budget and a year-long IMAX pre-sale aren't things a Shopify store can run. What's actually yours to use is the shape underneath it. Scarcity, controlled reveal, reputation first, and not the size of it. It doesn't matter how long you've been around, but it doesn't matter to that degree, right? And scarcity cuts both ways. Scalpers reselling above $200 reads as the hype from the outside. From the inside, it can just as easily read as customers who wanted to in and got shut out. A waitlist or a limited drop can build FOMO in strangers and resentment in people closest to your brand at the same time. Now, there's a real clothing brand that ran a version of this exact playbook with none of that budget. At one point, a single letter almost ended the entire company. I'm going to show you exactly what got them out of it. But here's the part that actually decides if any of this survives contact with a real customer instead of a movie audience. So Represented started, this is a clothing brand out of the UK, in 2011, and two brothers in a garden shed in Manchester with 150 pounds, like 200 USD, between the two of them, right? The revenue set flat around 6 or 7 million a year for 3 straight years. Then in 2018, they got a letter that George has since called, one of the founders, in his own words, the end of Represent. It was a legal threat that could have taken the name away entirely. They talked their way out of it instead of trying to outmuscle it. Today, the brand's doing somewhere north of $200 to $300 million per year. It's worn by Kim Kardashian, The Weeknd. It's been all over like UK, US, everywhere, right? And that letter, that's the letter. That's how they got out of it. And it's the closest real world version of Odysseus talking his way out of the Cyclops' cave instead of trying to fight his way out. So Represent didn't just copy the scarcity move either. They built an actual owners club and a prestige reward system on top of it. So the people who keep showing up to get treated better than the people chasing a single drop, that's Penelope's 20-year wait, turned into a loyalty program. Now the other version, Supreme, drops new products every Thursday at 11 a.m. Supply kept just under demand on purpose. A $50 box logo tee has resold near $665. Reseller move an estimated $3 million a week in Supreme product on StockX alone. And that's scarcity with almost no story underneath it. And recent reporting shows that the same mechanics starting to curdle now that the scarcity is starting to feel manufactured instead of earned, right? So it's like that worked really well for Supreme, and now you're starting to see it kind of die down a little bit. Customers can tell the difference eventually. Side by side, show me a graphic of Represent and Supreme here as far as growth. Now here's the actual calendar Universal ran, and you can copy the shape of it directly. A year out, a distant first look, right? And you can condense it if you'd like. This is a theater only, nothing to post it online, same day and scarcity driven pre-sale at the same 12-month mark. And months later, a surprise mid-cycle reveal to keep momentum without exposing the product. Now, right before the launch, embargoed first look for press and top customers. A press release built to hold in week 2, not just spike day 1. Now, for your brand, that's early waitlist access far out. A mid-cycle teaser drop and an embargoed first look for you and your actual customers right before the launch. And I want you to plan this a week or two, not just a launch day. Right? So full timeline graphic built left to right. Now the real payoff was never launch day, it was the second weekend. Word of mouth pulled in $87 million and the trailer driven crowd had already come and gone, reportedly beating The Dark Knight's own second weekend record. Now for your brand, that's delivery day, not the launch day. The second the product's actually in someone's hands and it matches what you promised or it doesn't. Hold your customers' content, the unboxing, the real reviews, and let it drop as a wave instead of a trickle. The real test of a launch was never the number on day 1. It's whether week 2 holds, right? Because the people who already bought it are doing the selling for you, right? That starts it. That garden shed brand, right? Represent, and that movie studio bet on the exact same thing before anybody had seen the actual product themselves. That's one move worth copying no matter what your budget actually looks like. If you want the actual calendar, just comment the word launch down below. I'll send it over to you. And like I said, if you want somebody to look at this, somebody who's worked it with over 300 brands in the last 12 months, there's a link in the description down below. No cost strategy sessions. Go check that out. All right, what's great about YouTube is it knows which video you need next to grow your clothing brand. Go check out one of these right here.